to treat these people as mass murderers, but I don't think that we should accord them in any religious respect. Ooh, yeah. Here's the thing. I get it. I get that part of what ICE holes are doing in this particular situation is they want to give Islam such a horrendously terrible name. They want to be known for shootings and killings and acts of terror and beheadings. So that we, the non-Islam world, look at Islam in general with suspicion and fear. And it's important to recognize that that's a part of their tactic. They want us to look at the rest of Islam, the moderates, with suspicion and fear because they want us to oust them. They want us to widen the gap between our realms of understanding. They want us to cast out people of the religion Islam so that they're forced to then take up with the caliphate, the Islamic State, that has in their mind grand designs of ruling the world. They want us to not tolerate, treat unfairly, subjugate, and disassociate ourselves from all Islam. So it's very important recognizing that this doesn't represent all of Islam. There are many Islamic people that love living in America. Why? Because they were in danger of getting beheaded in their native countries. That's why they came to America. That's why they came to various countries where there are freedoms of religion. So they could practice their version of Islam, which does not involve beheading people, without fear of then being beheaded. So I get that it's very important to embrace moderate Islam so that they don't run off and become extremist Islam, so that they don't get radicalized because they're sick of being downtrodden by us based on our fear of ISIS. Is this making sense? And while that's very important, pussyfooting around the whole issue and referring to this in the politically correct way of saying, oh, this is workplace violence, this isn't an act of Islamic terror, that's the narrative that seems to be trotted out over and over again. And I understand the motivation behind that. But let's take the Westboro Baptist Church. Absolutely horrible. Every last one of them deserves to be throat punched. The leaders of the Westboro Baptist Church, they are in no way, shape, or form religious. They're a bunch of lawyers that worked out that they could troll for lawsuits. That's how the Westboro Baptist Church works. They protest in the most horrible and inappropriate ways possible so that eventually some person does go, F these guys, and heaves a brick at them. And when they do, the Westboro Baptist Church and the lawyers that founded it are going to sue you, sue the police department of that town, sue that state, sue everybody, and add to their coffers, because that's what they're doing. They're trolling for lawsuits. They're looking to divide their people and common thinking people, because that's how they make their living and that's how they make their money. And that is what ISIS is. And the people at the top, I don't think for a tiny second believe that any of it is about the Quran. I don't think any of it really is about religion. But that doesn't change the fact that these acts are being carried out by a bunch of sycophants who don't know any better, don't understand that they're essentially glove puppets for leaders and that they are being used, abused, killed off, viewed as acceptable losses when they're willing to blow themselves up in the name of something that the people pulling the strings couldn't give a crap about. So yeah, in that respect, ISIS is not about a religion. It's about money and power. But the people in control, for them it's about money and power. For the foot soldiers blowing themselves up, shooting 12 dead in Paris over a cartoon, those folks are doing everything in the name of religion. And what is that religion? Islam. It's important to recognize. It's important to call a spade a spade. It's important to extend the very best side of your human nature when dealing with people of other religions and beliefs. But it's also important to remain vigilant and to understand what we on a global level are dealing with. And that is people who have been tricked into committing humongous acts of terror, violence, murder, and all the rest in the name of a religion. The more extreme the version of that religion is, the easier it is to brainwash people. People are going to be like, oh, well, what about Catholicism and Christianity and the Crusades and the slaughter of innocents there, and then the Spanish Inquisition and the torture, and yeah, that was a long time ago. And while it doesn't lessen the horror of things like the Spanish Inquisition, it's important to recognize that's not what we're dealing with right now. We don't deal with polio right now. That was our grandparents' problem. But we do have a different set of problems. And no matter what happened in the past, no matter how peaceful Islam was in the past, you ever look online and see the pictures of Islamic countries in the 60s when they were westernized and people are happy and partying and having a good time? And what a change. What a radical change in just a few years. But we're not concerned with the Islam of the 60s. We're concerned with the Islam of now, which is the Islam that radical control freaks are using to brainwash people into killing us. So, I get the whole political correctness of being like, don't call the parachuters Muslim terrorists. Don't call this an act of terror. Call this office violence. I get that. I understand it. But lives will be lost by not finding the truth and not recognizing the truth and not adhering to the truth. We're big enough people in this country. We're smart enough. We've got big enough hearts to be compassionate while being cognizant of the truth. Give us the credit that we deserve in that department. Speak the truth to us. Let us make our own decisions. Let us carry the love in our hearts and minds, whilst at the same time being vigilant. By not respecting our intelligence and our ability to do that, you're making the problem worse. And you're digging a deeper trench of a divide that will be harder and harder to overcome as time moves on. Speaking of time moving on, did you warm your car up this morning? Didn't have to do that. Letting your car warm up when it's cold outside, pretty much pointless. It makes sense if you want the inside of the car to get warm, but it doesn't do anything beneficial to the car itself unless it's really old and still has a carburetor instead of a fuel injector. Otherwise, you're just wasting gas. Now you know. Have an awesome one.